Alright folks, welcome back. So it is pretty much confirmed that we're getting a marathon for the 122TM, a premium tier 8 Chinese medium tank for next week's Lunar New Year's. Now we already covered this vehicle from the hidden vehicles video on the test server, but there were a few buffs in the meantime, ever so slightly buffs, but the downside to this vehicle is still the garbage DPM, the terrain resistance is not that good, and doesn't carry as much ammo as you would like, only 30 rounds. View range also sucks, so you play this thing like a heavy medium tank. It does have high penetration for the standard shells, so you don't have to focus on using gold shells all the time, like with the T-34-3, but is it really worth it? So let's take a look at the final stats before this vehicle rolls out next week. Now it is based off of the Soviet T-62, heavily modified obviously, but they did put 4 ATGMs and a double barrel DShk on top of the loader hatch, not the gunner hatch. That's a loader hatch. The gunner sits right here, the loader sits right here, but whatever, small detail. Let's see if they actually model the ATGMs and the DShks. No. There's nothing behind the cloth. There's nothing. There's no ATGM. So, is there a DShks? No, no DShks. There's a slight, like, boxy shape of a DShk, but that's practically it. Too expensive to model all this stuff, so take our word for it. But it looks kind of like a STB hull-ish. It's a little bit elongated compared to a Type 59 or a T-34-3, but still Chinese-ish in terms of the turret design, and the loader hatch and commander hatch is prominent, and there are weak spots, but it is a premium tank, makes more credits and crew XP. The crew fits with all the WZ 120s and 121s and stuff. Alright, has a 120mm, and let's take a look at the full stats. So 233mm of pen, which is very high, but it fires APCR as standard shell, high explosive anti-tank as the gold shell, 400 alpha, nice, but takes way too long to reload. That's the standard reload time for a 152 on the ISU 152. So it takes the same amount of time for the crew of this tank to load a 120mm compared to a 152mm on a Russian tank destroyer. But then again, there are two loaders, so that might be a thing. DPM really sucks. I thought it was a 122. It's actually a 120. Alright. But turret traverse is slightly below average, so it's not as fast as a medium tank to turn the turret. Does have 8 degrees of gun depression, 15 elevation. Accuracy and aim time is actually good for a Chinese medium tank, but then again it's a 120, not a 122, so DPM is the big bummer. Only 1400, 1430. That is god awful. You can bump it up to like 1600, but not much. That is a real garbage DPM. I mean, I think you will get bum rushed with like heavy tanks such as the Carnarvon Action X or the Jumbo Pershing. They have about 2,500 DPM. You have about 1,000 less. You will get bum rush. You will get heavily bum rush compared to other heavy tanks doing the same corner jobs competing against you. That's not going to be fun. So let's take a look at the armor if this thing will holds up. Has 1400 health, so slightly above average for medium tanks, but 280 for the turret front. It is well rounded, so turret is heavily bouncy, don't even think about it, but you do have two prominent weak spots. The loader hatch and the commander hatch, both cupolas are rather large, so it's only about 170 effective. You'll get pinned. That's a big target. It's not as big as something like a 59 Patton, but it's up there. It's not that hard to miss. The hull front is about 170mm effective, 120 slow backwards. Lower plate is 105. Ugh. Yeah, the hull armor is also not that great, but it does have 8 degrees of gun depression, so it will look something like this. 210 maybe. It has APCR as default round, so it might not even penetrate itself if it's properly hauled down, shooting at the upper plate. Funny enough, it does have 80 millimeters of side armor, which is actually pretty decent compared to like 50 or 70. So you might side scrape, and it does have side skirts to help out with the side scraping, surprisingly. But the rest of the armor is garbage, so you'll get artillery 30mm at the hull upper roof for the engine deck, as well as 30 for the turret roof. So yeah, artillery would love shoot at you, but you have a smaller profile compared to other heavy tanks, a little bit larger compared to medium tanks, but hey. Now mobility wise, it only has 15.5 horsepower per ton ratio. Now it is somewhat standard compared to Soviet mediums and other Chinese mediums, but the terrain resistance is not that great. 1.25 for hard, 1.44 for medium, and 2.4 for soft. That is heavy tank status. That's like assault gun tank destroyer status, like the T-28 prototype or the T-28. So like Doom Turtles. It will get bogged down, and it only carries 30 rounds. So high penetration is good, but sometimes you spam too much. Well, this tank is not gonna spam shells. The reload takes fucking forever. The hull traverse is rather quick. Top speed of only 50 kilometers per hour, reverse of 15. So you could put a turbocharger to make it a little bit better, but yeah, it's a heavy tank, heavy medium tank. It does have decent camo though, so that's good, but most of the time you're rather in the front lines fighting face to face, so camouflage is not that big of a deal, and view range is not that great, only 370. Well, it's better than Russian with 350 meters of view range, but compared to medium tanks, the average is about 380. That's like 390 or 380. That's below average. 350 is like garbage tier, but it's a heavy tank. So overall, is it worth it? Well, oh gosh. DPM sucks. That's a big thing. If the cupola were just as strong as the turret front, similar to a Object 430U at tier 10 originally, then this thing will have a lot better time haul down and take its time with the shells. You don't need that much gold shell, which is great, but you get bum rushed. If you're competing a heavy tank corner against heavy tanks like the Jumbo Pershing, the Action X Carnarvon, the normal Carnarvon, the normal T-32s, your DPM will not hold up. You have about 50% less DPM than those vehicles, or 40%. Still, they have about 2,500 to 2,300 DPM, which will chew this vehicle up. So let's take a look at tier 8 heavies, which are competing against the heavy tank corners. So vehicles like the Action X Carnarvon, holy fuck. Without even a crew that has brothers in arms, this thing has 2,800 DPM. I mean, you do get a rammer that helps with the 1,600 DPM or so, but still, holy fuck. You'll get wrecked. Let's take a look at the Jumbo Pershing. Jumbo Pershing has 2,400. Oh my gosh. I mean, even the Luva will chew you out. And the Luva has gun depression too. Oh my gosh. Oh my. These things have 2,200? The 50 TP prototype? Holy crap. Even these vehicles with long reload time has 2,000 DPMs. I mean, then again, they don't have as much gun accuracy and aim time as you are. And penetration is also not as good as your 122 TM, but they have more health to deal with. So it's like a T-34 in terms. Crappy hull armor, decent turret front. It's actually better turret front than the 122 TM. Oh my gosh. Let's see how much the Mutant has in terms of DPM. The Mutant has more DPM. Nah, penetration is not as good, obviously. Alright. But yeah, as you can see with all the examples, DPM sucks. Terrain resistance sucks. View range sucks. Gun handling is not that bad. Let's take a look at the dispersion. Don't shoot this thing while moving the vehicle. It's a heavy tank, after all. It doesn't weigh as much as well, so it does cost 8,450 gold. So not that bad, but I don't know. For a Chinese medium tank crew trainer, I think you might have a better time with the T-34-3, but you might struggle with the penetration of the gun, of the 122. Ugh, this thing. Oh, I actually have a skin for this? Holy crap, it's not as ugly looking now, I guess, but that's a huge tumor of a weak spot. So this thing doesn't have armor. 170 for the turret front, Patton's turret. 100 for the hull front, Type 59. The only upside to this vehicle is, I guess, DPM and gun depression, but the accuracy is not that great for sniping across the map. You don't have the high alpha or the high penetration to snipe across the map to be a tank destroyer, and the horsepower per ton ratio is also not as good. It does have 400 meters of view range, though camouflage rating is god awful. So the good thing about the 59 Patton is it's like a Chinese hooker. It's cheap. Only 6,400 gold. That is like tier 7 or tier 6 levels of gold. So it is pretty cheap. So giggity. But yeah, I would rate this vehicle, the 122TM, as a 7, maybe 6.5. It feels slightly below average. You'll get bum rushed. That's the main thing. If you play this thing like a heavy tank, you'll get bum rushed. You cannot play this thing like a medium tank because you're slow compared to other mediums, and view range is also not as good. Can you play this thing as a tank destroyer without DPM? Might as well play this thing as a tank destroyer, I guess. Penetration's not bad, but it takes way too long to snipe. The reload time is way too long. Accuracy and aim time is good for sniping, but tank destroyers are about DPM, right? I don't know. So about 6.5, 7-ish. It's not great. So there you go, folks. The 122TM for a marathon coming next week during Lunar New Year's or Chinese New Year's, but I'll do a pass. I'll skip. It's not worthwhile. I mean, when you think about it, all the marathon vehicles are actually pretty decent. Urgently, the Carnarvon Action X, the SU-130PM, the Boresk. If you invest enough time, those vehicles are actually very good. This one is skippable. I mean, you also see the CS53 list. That's like a Polish T44, if you will. Not bad. Object 274A, also not bad. Bouncy, trollish, decent gun. This thing, I mean, Chinese medium tanks are not Soviet medium tanks, not Russian, so they don't get all the buffs, obviously. And Chinese medium tanks have a weird feature of garbage accuracy and aim time, so it takes way too long to aim, and accuracy is also not that good, so you're forced to use vents for the mobility slot. And in order to compete with other mediums, you have to use optics, so I resorted to this setup, but still, takes way too long to aim. Accuracy is still not as good. Yeah, even with the top tier of the 121, takes way too long. The 121B is focused on the L7, so it doesn't count. This thing could get the turbocharger for helping into key spots, but for the rest, oh my god, the aim time sucks. The accuracy sucks. Even with this vehicle, the DPM sucks, so it trades off, but yeah, 7 out of 10. But there you go, folks. The 122TM for next week. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully that makes a better decision for you to buy it or not. But I'll see you guys next time. Peace.